In this video, I want to discuss circles, and I'm going to start by actually defining a circle mathematically. A circle is defined as the collection of all of the points in a plane that are a certain fixed distance away from a certain fixed point in the plane. This fixed point is known as the center, and the fixed distance is the radius. Here I have a circle, this point right here in the center, this is known as my center, and the length of this, the distance from the center out to the edge of the circle, is known as the radius. If we draw the line all the way across the circle, this is known as the diameter, and it is twice the radius, or we can think of it as all the way across the circle going through the center. The first thing I want to look at related to circles is the circumference. And this is essentially the perimeter of the circle, the distance around the outside of the circle. In order to start talking about the circumference of a circle, we need to define the number pi. Let's suppose I have this circle here with my given diameter. What I want to know is how many diameters would it take to go around the outside of a circle? So if I think of having a piece of string that's the length of the diameter, how many times would I need copies of that string to go all the way around the circumference? And it turns out that that number is pi, which is approximately 3.14. So when the circumference of a circle is measured by its diameter, the result is always pi. As a result, we have a nice formula for circumference, which is pi times diameter, because this is how many groups of the diameter does it take to go around the outside. So how many groups of d units are in c units? And that is pi. That is the definition of pi. So we have the circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. Another way we can think of this or explain it is if we have one part that is d units long, we have one diameter, and pi total parts, so pi copies of the diameter, then that will go around the circumference exactly. Since the diameter is 2 times the radius, we also have the formula for the circumference 2 pi r, which is the more commonly known formula, that the circumference is 2 times pi times the radius. Let's look at an example of using this. Let's suppose you plan to make a circular garden with a radius of 10 feet, and you want to enclose the garden with a fence. So how long a fence would you need? Well, that is exactly the circumference, which would be given by 2 times pi times the radius. So we need it to be 20 pi feet, which is approximately 63 feet of fence that we would need for this garden. Next, let's consider the area of a circle. The area of a circle is known as pi r squared. So where does this formula come from? Well, let's suppose I have a circle here, and I have blocked it off into little squares of size r by r. Well, then I want to know how many squares would this circle fill? Well, we can see that we have, well, 3, definitely, and then this one we might be able to use to fill in some of these open areas. And it turns out how many squares it would take is exactly pi. It's exactly 3.14159, etc. And so this can kind of give us an idea of where this formula pi r squared comes from. So let's do an example of using this. Let's suppose you plan to make a circular patio of diameter 30 feet. What will the area of this patio be? Well, if the diameter is 30 feet, then our radius is 15 feet. So the area would be pi times 15 squared, which is 225 times pi, which is approximately 707 square feet. So when you use this formula, make sure you square the value of the radius first and then multiply by pi. We definitely don't want to do 15 times pi first and then squaring. So we need to make sure we do our square of the radius first and then multiply by pi.